What I remember is I started to meditate, just in stillness. I didn't know what I was doing, but I remember that it did something. It was the first thing that actually helped me. I was born with a hole in my heart. The doctors back then gave me a life expectancy of 12 years. This is what I grew up with. They said that I needed to have surgery on an open heart, but back then, which was 36 years ago, the medicine was not the same that it is today. They couldn't give me surgery back then because there were not a lot of specialists in that. So I waited until I was 6 years. So the first 6 years of my life, I spent in and off the hospital. That was my life. I did have surgery when I was 6, and they put a patch on my heart, but they were not able to close the whole heart. So that meant that I was always going to be weaker than others. They told me that I was never going to be able to have like a carefree pregnancy, that I was going to be a risk patient, that I was not allowed to really do sports and all of these things. This was my identity. And I kind of lived with that. And I think looking back now, if they wouldn't have told me over and over again that I was weaker, I never felt that. For me, I never really felt that. But it was that my parents and doctors and everyone told me I was so weak, I started to believe it. So I kept on going, living my life, and everything was okay until I turned like in my 20s or something like that. That is when it really hit me again, because I think my identity was also to get attention through disease, through sickness. I have 2 other siblings, and my strategy was always to be the weaker one. I got the attention of my parents through my diseases, my sicknesses. It was not only the open heart, I also had my appendix removed, but it was like an emergency surgery, so there was always something going on with me. When I was in my 20s, I developed a lot of health issues, I'd say. I started to have panic attacks. I started to have, how you say that in English, arrhythmia, when the heart was not beating right. So I would wake up in the middle of the night with my heart beating, and every single night I thought I was going to die because I couldn't breathe anymore, and the heart was doing crazy things. And I had my phone next to my bed, always ready to call my sister because I thought this was it. But then also I started to have a lot of issues and problems in my stomach. I couldn't eat anything anymore. I had the worst cramps ever. I would pass out, find myself laying on the floor because I was so much pain. The thing is, I just didn't trust any doctors. No one could really help me. I did go, but they didn't know what was wrong with me. They couldn't find anything. There was like nothing there. And I remember they wanted to give me beta blocker for my heart, and that was the moment I refused that. I didn't want to take it. I knew I needed to, that was the moment really I knew I needed to change something. I started to look for other things. Back then, I did not find Dr. Joe right away yet, but what I remember is I started to meditate, just in stillness. I didn't know what I was doing, but I remember that it did something. It was the first thing that actually helped me. And I was a little bit more relaxed. I felt like something was happening. And I think like 1 or 2 years later is when I found Dr. Joe. What I started with was the formula. And I think I did these meditations for like a year, 1.5. And the one that I really clicked with was heart coherence. That's all I did, every single day. And if you would ask me now what really changed my life, it's just breathing into my heart. So I did that meditation every single day. I did others also. There were new ones that came into my life. But this one was the one that was most important to me. And when I started this work, really getting into that work, doing these meditations, is when I really started to see changes in my life. So I really remember one meditation when all of a sudden, for the first time, I could feel energy flowing into my belly again. And after that, I felt like my digestion was getting normal again. And I never really once thought about healing myself. I just kept on going. I wanted to feel better. I wanted to feel lightness in my heart again and in my life because everything was so hard. My life just was not joyful. And I just desired to feel joy. That's why I did the meditations. It's so interesting, like thinking back now, it's like so far away. A lot of these things I don't even remember anymore. It's like, it feels like in another life, so I really have to think about it. But I think what I remember is that I started to be more joyful. I started to feel more ease and lightness in my life. And I didn't have the panic, and the panic attacks stopped. The arrhythmia stopped. I could sleep through the night again, which for many years I couldn't. I started to take things during night to be able to sleep through the night. So I could sleep again, and just a lot of things happened emotionally and physically. And I did the meditations for like 2 or 3 years, I think. And I just, in the whole process, I don't even know how it happened, I became another person. I was just more joyful, more happy, more easygoing, just not as heavy anymore, not as sad anymore. I needed to do these checkups every single year for my heart. And I got a little bit flexy with it. I just forgot to go. I didn't go anymore because I just didn't feel it anymore. And I remember I decided to go one more time. That was like after 3 years that I hadn't gone. And I went to the doctors, and it was a doctor I'd never been to before. And so she checked on my heart. And that is, this story is really still like a mystery to me, because she checked on it, and she didn't really say it, but I could sense it, that she was really confused. And she sent me out, and because she was done with me, and I was about to leave, and then she called me back in again. And she told me to lay down again. So she checked on the heart again. And she just, well, the end of the story is she just couldn't find the hole in the heart anymore. It was just gone. But I think the crazy thing about it is she never said that with one word. She didn't want to say it. She didn't want to say it's gone, because I think she couldn't believe that it was gone. I left her really confused, because for me, my identity was that the hole was always going to be there. And when she couldn't find it, there was a part of me that couldn't believe it. I guess healing my heart and the hole that was closed is just a side effect of everything else that happened and everything else that I did, you know. But I think it is the biggest miracle to me, because it's just something that doctor said was never going to be able, you know, to happen. It was just not an option. I really get it when Dr. Joe says it's not about the healing, it's about changing. Is that it really is about changing. It's about, you know, becoming a person that no longer identifies with all of that problems, you know. And for me, that was opening my heart. For me, that was letting love in. For me, that was to have a life that's more joyful and easy.